Let's remind ourselves where we are here in the book of Revelation. By the way, those of you that don't know me, my name is Kim Natale. This is my email address. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me and contact me. People have asked me different questions. I'll try to respond to those. But let's remind ourselves where we are. The book opens and closes with a specific scene. What's the scene that it opens and closes with? God on the throne. Because more than anything, this book is saying, in our lives, we need to see who is on the throne, who is in charge. And I pulled this passage from Colossians because I like it. This is Paul writing to us, and he says, if then you've been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. Now, that's a pretty direct statement of, set your minds on the things above. Think about who's in charge? Because too often in this world, we don't think that God is in charge. Now, I know that we intellectually say that we do. I'm not saying that. I'm saying emotionally, we don't act like we really believe God is in charge. And so the first and last thing we always have to do in our lives is realize who is in charge. That's the number one thing. The next thing is we looked in the letters to the churches, and we were looking for commonalities. We found out that there were two common things going on in those letters to the churches, right? What were those two common things that he was really addressing of things going on? Yes.
Conforming to culture and persecution.
Yes. Persecution. And conforming to the culture. These are the two problems that have to be addressed in the church at that time. We've also talked some about the significance of numbers and how important the number 7 is in our study. Remember, whenever we see the word 7, we're not going to read 7 because the Middle Eastern mind, the Jewish mindset in 70 AD, didn't read numbers the way we do. I will tell you that when I read the Bible, when you read the Bible, it is very hard to remove yourself from your culture and read the Bible the way it was intended. It's impossible. You can't get out of our culture. Our culture is one where numbers mean counting and numeric things. Their culture is not, was not, and is not. So when we see a number, and actually, I'll tell you that I extend this, after studying Revelation, I've extended this so much to the rest of the Bible. When I see a number in the Bible, I'm very hesitant to take it literally. I take almost all numbers and try to see what's the number behind them. Now I was asked, well, weren't there 7 churches that this was addressed to? Yes, there were. That's why he named them for us. But the question really is, why did he choose 7? We know there were at least 9 churches in Asia Minor. Why didn't he say to the 9 churches in Asia? Why was it so important that there were 12 disciples? When Judas betrayed Jesus, why didn't he just leave it at 11? Wouldn't 11 have been good? No. Because 7 is a symbolic number and 12 is a symbolic number. They couldn't leave it at 11. Why, when they had 2 candidates, why didn't they just make it 13? No. Remember, they had to draw lots to get down to 12. 12 is a significant, important number. So is 7. So when we see the number 7, I'm not saying it doesn't have a literal meaning, but I'm saying the symbolic meaning is more important, and 7 always means complete. And that's because 7 is a combination of 2 numbers meaning complete. Those 2 numbers meaning complete are 4, which means complete in a worldly sense. And 3, which means complete in a spiritual sense. We've encountered some other numbers. We'll play with them as we get there. So, today we get 2 of the most exciting chapters, I think, in the book of Revelation. Of course, it's hard to beat chapter 12, but okay, we're going to do chapters 4 and 5 today. So let's go there. If you have your Bibles, you'll be able to see it better there than up on my screen. But I'm just going to put the text up here because that's all we're working from is the text. After this, I looked. Who's the I? John. After what? After the first vision where he'd seen the churches and what was going on and realized they had 2 problems. They're being persecuted and they're conforming to the culture. After this, John says, I looked, and there was a door standing open in heaven. What did Colossians just tell us that we should be? We should be seeing the heavenly things. John's saying there was a door standing open in heaven. And I'm going to tell you that this view of heaven is not just heaven. This is a view of the world from God's perspective. From heaven. This is a view of the universe from heaven. Okay? That's what we're going to see now. This is different from our other throne scene, because our other throne scene we just saw God. This time we get to see the world from heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet, whose voice was that? That was God's. And it was like a trumpet because we're going to listen to it. Said, come up here. I will show you what must take place after this. I was in the Spirit. Now, he was in the Spirit before. I don't know whether this is a separate vision on a different day. I'm not sure. But apparently he's having another vision. And there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. And the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and carnelian. I'm reminded of this story. Georgia was telling me that she did substitute teaching, and the principal one day came into, was it a second grade classroom?
I don't know which story you're telling.
Oh, you don't know the story I'm telling. That's a good point. All right. She's in a classroom with little tiny kids, and the principal comes in. The principal is a tall lady.
It's kindergarten.
Kindergarten. She's with kindergartners. And so the principal comes in to visit. The principal's a tall lady. And, the little kids are way down here, and the principal walks in, and she's like 5'11", 6 feet.
No, she was like 6'3".
6'3".
Yeah, very, very tall.
And he looks up at her, and what did he say?
He says, God, you've grown.
God, you've grown. Whoa. That's kind of the picture I think of when I think of this picture of seeing God. And you say, well, what's the idea of jasper and carnelian?
Precious.
They're precious. They're precious stones. But let me show you something else to think about if you want to have some fun with this. We always want to have fun. Let's go to Exodus 28:17. Exodus 28:17 is talking about for the the breastplate of the high priest. And you notice they're going to be in 4 rows of stones. The first stone listed as sardius, and the last one is jasper. So on the breastplate of the high priest, the first stone is sardius, the last one is jasper. Now you go back to Revelation. There, you got to find the mouse. You go back to Revelation, and carnelian is another term for sardius, by the way. You see jasper and carnelian, just the reverse. Those were to the Jew, reading this in 70 AD, he would instantly have known this. They would instantly have known those are the stones, the first and last, on the breastplate of the high priest. But they're listed from last to first, because which way are you looking at God? You're looking at God from the bottom up. Oh, how you've grown. And you're seeing that those same stones that the high priest had, God had. So that's why those are listed. Let's go back. The rainbow resembling an emerald. Of course, what's the significance of the rainbow? The promise. The rainbow is always the idea of the promise. It encircles the throne, because around the throne of God you see the promise. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones. It's no accident that there are 24, and there's 24 elders. The 24 elders are dressed in white. Why are they dressed in white? Because they're pure, also because they're elders, and white is the symbol of wisdom. Remember that from last week. So now what we're saying is they have crowns of gold on their heads. To get a crown of gold, what does that mean? They have overcome. Now we're talking about 24. You can argue about what the 24 is, but here's what I think it is. 24 you get from 12 plus 12. Who were God's people in the Old Testament? The Jews, the 12 tribes of Israel. God's people in the Old Testament are represented by the 12 tribes of Israel, who are God's people in the New Testament. 12. They're represented by the 12 disciples. So important that we have both. So when you see the 24, you're saying these are God's people, Old Testament. These are God's people, New Testament. So when you see 24 thrones, who is there worshiping God? God's people throughout time are worshiping Him. From the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings, and peals of thunder. Why is that picture given? Why is God pictured with lightning and rumblings and peals of thunder? Because He's God, He wants you to know who He is. Right? There's power, incredible power. Before the throne, 7 lamps were blazing. Of course, in front of the throne of God, you'd have not 7, read, complete. Where does the complete light come from? From God. These are don't read 7, read complete. That's the Spirit of God. And before the throne was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. I think the picture here is, we're trying to get a picture of what we're seeing God there. This is a separation between the normal people and God, but notice God is reflected in that. I get the idea of this reflecting pool. In the center around the throne were 4 living creatures. They were covered with eyes in the front and the back. Living creature like a lion, like an ox, like a man, and like a flying eagle. And you go, whoa, each of the 4 living creatures had 6 wings covered with eyes all around and even under his wings. Oh, I love this. Who are these? Very simple. Very simple. I'll tell you why. Because that is exactly the picture that we have in the Old Testament. And of course, that brings to mind to the Jew reading this, he would say, ha, I think of Ezekiel 1:5. because the Jew is familiar with Ezekiel 1:5. Ezekiel sees a vision. I guess I better erase all this. And I want you to get what they are. Ezekiel sees a vision with 4 living creatures. This was their appearance. There was a human likeness, but each had 4 faces and 4 wings. Does that sound similar? Their legs were straight. The soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot. They sparkled like burnished bronze. Under their wings and on their 4 sides they had human hands. The 4 had faces and their wings. Their wings touched one another. One of them went straight forward, turning as he went. As for the likeness of their faces, each had a human face. The 4 had the face of a lion, the face of an ox. The 4 had the face of an eagle. So they have 4 faces. Do you see it's the same animals listed? Such were their faces. Their wings were spread out above. Each creature had 2 wings. It's true that the number of wings is different. But, do you see they have a bunch of wings? And do you see that this is sort of Ezekiel's vision of what he's seen? And you say, so what were these? Ezekiel tells us what they were. We don't have to wonder. So we'll go to Ezekiel 10:20, where he's finishing the vision. He says, these were the living creatures that I saw underneath the God of Israel by the Chebar Canal. I knew that they were cherubim. Each of them had 4 faces, 4 wings, and underneath their wings was a likeness of human beings. So what are these creatures that we see in Revelation? They are simply cherubim. What are cherubim? They are angels with a specific purpose. In Scripture, cherubim are always doing what? Guarding the things of God. So, of course, around the throne, you'll find God's guards. Now let's go back to Revelation, and we can see and have some fun with what are the creatures. Why do they have that? When you see a lion, what do you think of with a lion? You think of power. When a lion is going to take something down, he's the king. When you see an ox, it's true that you think of strength, but the lion is really symbolizing strength. So when we see an ox here, you can work with an ox all day. When I think of an ox, I think endurance. A lion doesn't have much endurance, but an ox does. When you think of a man, you think of reasoning and intelligence. An ox isn't known for their intelligence.
A lot of men aren't either.
Whose wife is that? Good grief!
I don't know, Kim, you better make her go sit in the corner.
Yeah, right!
She has all the answers. See, that in the generic sense.
Man, okay. And like the eagle. Why would you describe them like an eagle? Because an eagle is thought of as being swift. Wouldn't you expect the creatures guarding God's things to have all those attributes? That's why they're described that way. They're guarding God's things because there are 4 of them, because they're guarding God's things on earth, of course. So they have to be covering the whole world. All right. Well, that was just an aside because it was fun. It's not really important. We can certainly understand the book without that, right? But I love this. Day and night, they never stop saying, holy, holy, holy. Why do they say it 3 times? Because you're describing a spiritual being, you're describing God. So you won't say God is holy. To the Eastern mind, you would say God is holy, 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 because 3 is spiritually complete. Is the Lord God Almighty? Now I'm going to describe God. I'm going to describe Him who was, and is to come. I describe Him with 3 attributes, right? Why? Because He's a spiritual being. He was, and is to come. Now, why is that important to people living in 70 AD? That they realize He's the God who was, and is to come. There's wondering where He's at. They're undergoing persecution. They're conforming to the culture. If they're undergoing persecution, you want to know, is He going to come? And if you're conforming to the culture, you need to know He's going to come. Right? Both things really apply. We're having fun now, right? This is getting to be fun. Okay, let's move on. Whenever the living creatures, those are the cherubim, give glory, honor, and thanks. Isn't that interesting? 3 things listed. To Him who sits on the throne and who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before Him who sits on the throne and worship Him who lives forever and ever. They lay down their crowns before the throne and say, You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory, honor, power. For You created all things, and by Your will they are created and have their being. Wow. Another 3 attributes listed for God, aren't they? This book is no accident. It's brilliant. Now, there's something missing in chapter 4. We've been looking at heaven, and what are we missing? God's there. The Spirit's there. Who's not there? Christ is not in this picture yet. Keep that in mind. That's why I got to do chapter 5 today. Because I didn't want to leave you thinking we left something out. Right? Revelation 5. I saw in the right hand of Him who sat on the throne. We always said the right hand was your powerful hand. Was a scroll with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals. We don't read 7, we read complete. It's completely sealed. You can't open it. Now, I will tell you that it's true in Roman times, when you had a will, and you had the will that you wanted to seal it up. You know how many seals they put on a seal? 7 seals. You know how many witnesses you had to have to a will in Roman times? 7, of course. Do you think 7's a significant number? I think it is. 53 times it's mentioned in this book. I think that's important. When God tells me something over and over, I tend to get it. Well, at least I tend to think it's important, right? I mean, I get it. There's very little I get. But I do think it's important. I saw a mighty angel proclaiming in a loud voice, Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll? Now look at this picture. But no one in heaven, or on earth, or under the earth could open the scroll or look inside it. I wept and wept because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll and look inside. The scroll is the plan of God for the salvation of humanity. That's what's written on it. Why is John crying? You're looking around, you want to know, God, what is your plan for this world? And what does he find? God has a plan, but you can't open it. You can't see it. Do you realize that puts John into tears? Because there's one thing that John needs. He needs to know, God, what is your plan? In fact, when I think about it, I need to know what God's plan is for the world. Because the world kind of disturbs me. This world is not an easy place to live in. And there's things that go on in the world I do not understand. And if I don't know that God has a plan, then there's really no meaning to my life. So I would be pretty sad about that. Now, why is it emphasized that it's a mighty angel? What if he said, what if it was changed? And I saw a very weak angel proclaiming in a whispering voice. Do you see that changes it? Why is it a mighty angel? Find the strongest angel you can. Can he open the scroll? No. He's calling out in a loud voice, because where is it going? Everywhere. You see, this is a picture of the whole universe from this viewpoint now. He's looking out over the whole thing. How do I know it's the whole universe? Because to the Jew in 70 AD, the world had three parts, right? What there was there? There's the heavenly realm. There's the earthly realm where living things live. That makes sense. And there's under the earth. What's under the earth? The realm of the dead. By the way, my friend Galileo Galilei.
You're that old?
Yeah. Been around a long time. This is what they used to prove the earth was flat. Do you see that we shouldn't impose our scientific ideas on the Bible? This fits. It's not meant to be a scientific statement. It's meant to be a statement of what the people thought at the time. And it's telling them, if you look in heaven, if you look among all us, or if you look among all the dead, you can't find anyone who's worthy to open and tell you what the plan of God is. Now we get to the really exciting part. Because so far, things are getting pretty dismal. One of the elders said to me, "Don't weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah," let me move this over so we can see it. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David has triumphed. He is able to open the scrolls and its 7 seals of its complete seal. Wow, there's a lion here, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Now I'm excited. Because I'm going to see this powerful beast, right? I'm going to see this powerful beast that's there, and he's, oh man, what's this talking about? The root of David. To me, a Jew in 70 AD, who's David? He was King David. Why is King David so important? He's the one that expanded Israel to its borders. Now, it's true that Solomon's kingdom was bigger, but David was thought of as the warrior. He's the one who did that. He's the powerful king. And this man is the root of David, because Christ came from the line of David. So we're saying, look, there is someone who's able to open them. And so I'm excited now. I'm looking around for this powerful lion, right? And what do you get? And I saw a lamb. I love this picture. Looking as if it had been slain. How do you look as if you've been slain? Pitiful, right? Maybe it's been sacrificed, maybe its throat has been cut, maybe it has blood dripping from it. But I see this lamb looking as if it's been slain. Now this kind of surprises you, because you were expecting a lion. And it's standing in the center of the throne. And look, it's encircled by the 4 living creatures and the elders. What do you see that's necessary for God's plan to be revealed to us? You see Christ. Without Christ, God's plan doesn't come to the world. We need Jesus. Now, I love this picture. You describe Christ as having 7 horns and 7 eyes. Now, I understand 7 means complete, but what does horn mean? Why is the lamb described as having 7 horns? What's horn? Let's work on that a little bit. Let's figure out what horn was to the Jew, because horn to us means something different, right? We don't quite get it. So we're going to go to Psalm 75:10. All the horns of the wicked I will cut off, but the horns of the righteous shall be lifted up. That's interesting. Let's try one more. 1 Samuel 2:10. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Against them he will thunder in heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. What does the horn mean to the Jew? Horn, in this terminology, is power. God is saying, I will grow the power of my anointed people. So horn is a symbol of power. You see a bull in a field. If the bull has no horns, you don't worry about it too much, right? But if the bull has horns, you tend not to get into the field. Right? You respect it more if it has horns. If it doesn't have horns, it's hopeless. It might kick you. For me, it would be dangerous because I have no clue what to do around an animal. I tell you, I was in Alaska. And we're outside Denali National Park, and so George's cousin, who's a big-time hunter, drives into the park, and Georgia can see animals like 70 miles away. She looks out in the field and she goes, "There's some moose out there." And I go, "Where?" And we get the spotting scope out, and sure enough, you can see these 3 moose. Now, I don't know what the plural for moose is because you wouldn't call them mice. Right? But in any case, she sees some moose. She goes, "Go take a picture." Right. Go take a picture. I do what she says. She's going to go with me, but we're going through the tundra. The tundra is, in Alaska, like that thick. You know, like here it's like that thick, and you step on it and it dies and never comes back. In Alaska, it's like a big pillow. It's like walking on a feather pillow. George is having trouble with her little short legs, but I'm doing fine with my long legs. You know, moose have long legs exactly for this adaptation that they have. So I walk through the forest, through the tundra. There's no trees around. We're at 2,000 feet in Alaska. We're way above timberline. And I'm going toward the moose. Now, I'm a city boy. Nobody's ever told me that a moose can be dangerous, right? So I'm walking out there, and about an hour and a half later, I get from like here to the wall. And I'm taking pictures of these 3 moose, these 3 lady mooses standing there. Okay? And I think, if there's 3 lady mooses, I wonder where the man moose is. It occurs to me. I turn around, and behind me is the man moose. Now, that occurred to me, I'm between the man moose and the lady moose is not a good idea. I turn around to the man moose. Now, when I turn around to the man moose, he's about from here to the wall away. I thought, you know, you're not quite filling my picture well, so I have my regular lens on and get up closer to him. So now I'm about 15 feet away from him. The man moose, big, powerful antlers, I realize, on a moose, but, you know, it's kind of like horns. That's how we got into this story. Those big antlers are there, and this rack is like 6 feet across, and I'm looking at it. Wow, that's pretty impressive. But could you turn and face the camera? Well, sure enough, he turns and he's facing me. And I'm looking through him and he fills my lens. And I'm going, wow, this is a great picture. You know? And then I notice, I go, isn't that funny? The hair on his back is standing up. And isn't it funny? I see stuff coming out of his nose. Oh, it's like he's like got asthma or something. Because he's got a snorting and smoke is coming out. And I'm not kidding you, this is all true. And I'm still taking his picture, and then I notice his little paw. He's got a hoof up going like this. And I'm going, wait a minute. This is not a zoo. Honestly, this is the first time it occurred to me. This is not a zoo. There is no fence here. I go, now what if this moose decides to run at me? I go, I think he can run faster than I can. And I say, well, I could run up a tree. I look around. There's no trees. I can't see a tree anywhere. I go, ooh, this is bad. But then I knew because I'd seen Crocodile Dundee not long before. So everything I learned about animals, I learned from Crocodile Dundee. So I knew not to look at the moose. So I was like this, kind of peeking at him, peeking at him. And I knew that if you did this, you can make him toe, it wouldn't come at you. So I did this for a while. And then I took a little baby step back. And it took me about 20, 30 minutes to kind of step back. You know, to finally he turned back around and started kind of eating whatever they eat again. And then I walked away from him, so I was okay. But yeah, obviously, because I'm here. And George's cousin is up looking at me through the spotting scope and goes, what's the nearest hospital?
He says to me, does he know that those are dangerous animals? I said, we don't have moose in Colorado, because at the time we did not.
No, I didn't know that was a dangerous animal. Good grief. Why would they put them out in the wild like that? Maybe they have a warning sign or something. Good grief. All right. So the idea of the horn is its power. And you're scared of them because those horns can rip you apart. That's the idea that we have talking about horns. Let's get back to our passage. Oops. Somewhere. Here we are. Okay. We said he had 7 horns, so he has complete power. And 7 eyes, so he has complete sight. He can see us. We're talking about Christ. But those are the 7. He has the complete Spirit of God, and he sends it to all the earth. Is that all true of Christ? Yes. He came and he took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne, and when he had taken it, the 4 living creatures, the 24 elders, fell down before the Lamb. Each one had a harp. They were holding golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints, and they sang a new song. Why do you sing a new song? Because you now understand that Christ has come. And when Christ is there, you understand there is a plan of God in your life. You don't have the old song anymore. You have a new song. The old song is, God, why are you doing this? The new song is, God, I see your power. I understand you're in charge. I still may not understand why you're doing it, but I know that you're in charge. You are worthy to take the scroll and open its seals. Why are you worthy? Because you were slain. With your blood you purchased men for God from every tribe and language and people and nation. You have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God. They will reign on the earth. Now I want you to look at the tense going on in this passage. When he says, you have made them to be a kingdom and priests. Do you realize we are a kingdom and priests right now? See, the thing that discourages me about some interpretations of the book of Revelation is they say you got to wait for this to happen. Right now, we need to know that we are a kingdom, and we are priests serving God here. Now, they will reign on earth because not everybody's going to recognize that we're the kingdom and priests. They'll reign when people see who God is. It reminds me of this passage, Hebrews 2:7. Hebrews 2:7 says, "You made him," talking about Christ, "for a little while lower than the angels. You have crowned him with glory and honor, putting everything in subjection under his feet." Now, in putting everything in subjection to him, he left nothing outside his control. At present, we do not yet see everything in subjection to him. But we see him who for a little while was made lower than the angels, namely Jesus, crowned with honor, glory, and honor because of the suffering of death. So by the grace of God, he might taste death for everyone. That's a pretty powerful passage telling you Christ has accomplished what he came to do. Christ came to suffer and die. Now, this is going to help me when I am persecuted. Not many of us are persecuted right now, but when we're persecuted, if we want to be like Christ, what's he saying? Suffer and die. Because that gives you a crown of life. Let's go back to our passage. Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels numbering thousands upon thousands and 10,000 upon 10,000. They encircled the throne and the living creatures and the elders. What do those numbers mean? If I tell you there are thousands and 10,000s and thousands upon thousands, what impression comes to you? There's a lot. That's the whole picture. Don't try to count them. Don't try to say, oh, that must be that there's thousands upon thousands. That must be there's 1,000,000 angels. No, that isn't the point. The point is there's a lot of them. They're all over. And what are they doing? They're worshiping God because they, in a loud voice, saying, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power, 1, wealth, 2, 3, wisdom, 4, strength, 5, 6, 7. So what do we have? The Lamb is the complete one who has received all these. Then I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and on the sea and all that's in them singing, "To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory and power forever and ever." The 4 living creatures said, "Amen." The elders fell down and worshipped. What's the point? Jesus has come and he sits with God, and he is the one that can tell you the plan of God. Without Jesus, we don't know the plan of God. With Jesus, the plan is revealed to us. Now, the 7 seals are going to be opened next, and we're excited to open those now, because we know that they are the plan of God. Right? But the plan of God ultimately was to send Jesus. And what do you need to know most about the plan of God? Who's in charge? God is. That's the point. This life, this week, live your life looking to heaven and seeing who's in charge. We'll see you next week.